Does your team need a quarterback because your organization didn't address it in the offseason? Well, I got good news for you because the quarterbacks that will be available for the 2025 NFL Draft are, interested? I spent this whole week burying myself in this quarterback class, going through film. I got through 25 of them, and I'm going to give you my top 10 in this video, and I'll talk about some of the guys that maybe just missed the list at the end, so stick around for that. But without further ado, number 10, Noah Fifita out of Arizona, coming in at 5'11", 195, so little itty bitty, and probably why he's so low on my list. I got a 5th round projection on him, but he's also exceptionally young. He's only going to be a redshirt sophomore. So someone who might not even be in the 2025 NFL draft, quite frankly, could end up being in the 2027 NFL draft. But last year was his first year as a starter and didn't start until I think like week 4 or something. But ended up starting 9 games, was the Pac-12 Offensive Freshman of the Year. The final Pac-12 Offensive Freshman of the Year, by the way. Rest in peace, Pac-12. But he had a pretty solid season, especially down the stretch. Like, the big plays weren't really that apparent early on, but he showed some shades of them at the end of the year. He had the Pac-12 finale, and then in the bowl game against Oklahoma, he ends up having 5 big-time throws. He only had 9 on the season, so that's something I'm expecting to get better this year. But you like the quick release. You like the decision-making. He gets the ball out real fast. He averaged about 2.5 seconds in terms of average time to throw. You want to be under that 3 seconds. There's going to be a couple of guys we talk about that are over the 3-second mark, but sitting there at 2.5 is really good. Very good accuracy on the short to intermediate. Always puts the ball in a position where his receivers can make a play after the catch. That's kind of huge. And the touch pass. The touch pass was really good with him. As he might not have the biggest arm. He doesn't. He does lack some zip. But his ability to like throw dimes down the field, using that touch to the best of his ability, honestly, a little reminiscent of, and I'm not saying it like Jaden Daniels was a Heisman winner, but Jaden Daniels, what he really started, like how his deep ball got so good last year was because of his ability with the touch pass. His touchdown feel was so great. And I think Fifita could move in the same direction, though I would say Daniels has the bigger arm. Because, again, I mean, that's the things that are going to be working against Fifita as size, arm strength, and I'm not saying it's like a sub NFL arm. Like if we're gonna go on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say it's like a 6, maybe a 6.5. So you really got to be accurate on that short to intermediate. And he was 78.4% adjusted completion percentage. Basically, it just takes out the drops, spikes, throwaways, gets you like the truest sense of, okay, how accurate is this cat? I will say, antsy feet, like he is aided by a lot of screens in Arizona's offense, though Fitch is now in Washington. But if he's unable, his accuracy does get a little erratic if he's unable to put his cleats into the ground, and that was something you could tell. Like, yeah, like he wanted to be able to move just in case, because the dude is elusive. Only 80 rushing yards this past season, but like he can scramble. I do like that he wants to scramble to be a passer. I do like that, but having that small hitbox, it's pretty hard to put a hand on him to begin with. And then just his ability to kind of like his burst and his ability to just get out of dodge. I do like that about him. But again, the accuracy does slip if he's unable to set his feet. But someone definitely to watch out for who might not even end up being in this class. Then at number 9, I have Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame, coming in at 6'4", 212 pounds. He did spend the last 3 years at Duke. And last year was kind of he got beat up. He got hurt. I think he had the ankle injury early, and then the toe injury led to him having to end his season after only 7 games, which sucks. But we if you don't want to take last year's tape, which to be fair, he wasn't like you got like 3 games where it's like he's unhurt, not hurt, so you could take that as a good sample size. But truly, you're gonna go back and look at 2022, see what he did there, compare it with those 3 games where he was not hurt. And I'm going to tell you all this, man. I'm not blown away by him. I get why people like him. I really do. Like the plus size, good arm strength, his ability to like be accurate downfield. I think you go to 2022, 43.1% adjusted completion rate on passes of 20 plus yards or more. That was pretty good. So it's not fair to really take the sample size from last year. Though, again, you could look at it in some instances. He's got a sturdy build, plays with a real quick release, plays better under pressure than you anticipate. Doesn't really put the ball in harm's way, though last year it was up a little bit, but I think a lot of that had to do with him against Notre Dame. That's where a lot of his turnovers actually came up. So I'm not too worried about that. His ability to improvise as a runner, dude's a good athlete. Truly is. Like, going back to 2022, I mean, even last year, his rushing yards were pretty darn solid. He had close to 400 last year, but the year before, he was close to 800. So, yeah, the guy can improvise and he can make plays with his feet. But why I'm not that high on him, I know some people absolutely love him. He feels too much spray and pray. Like, his ball placement could truly be all over the place. Like, last season, adjusted completion percentage was 70.2%. Okay, not bad, but not really high end. I'm not going to be talking about this guy as, like, in the top 50. Like, I've seen some people talk about him in the top 50. I'm like, his accuracy doesn't really tell me that he is a top 50 guy. And it's not to say, like, last year, again, smaller sample size because of the injury, but in 2022, it was legitimately this exact same 70% adjusted completion percentage. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't love that about him. I think he lacks that spark as a passer. Like, he really struggles with timing, ball placement, and while I think he's capable of moving through progressions, there seems to be a reluctance to kind of stay in the pocket, and he'd rather make those plays with his feet. I think that was very apparent in the opener versus Clemson. He wasn't making plays with his arm. 50% completion percentage against Clemson. He ends up throwing for only 175 yards. He average yards per attempt, 5.1. It wasn't a great game through the air for him. It just wasn't. So, like, I don't know. I mean, there is that thing with him where it's like he struggles versus good defenses. Like, he ran into a buzzsaw this past season against Notre Dame, and that ends up where he ends up hurting the ankle. But it wasn't until the end of the game. It really wasn't. I mean, you could, again, point to the Clemson game earlier this year. You could go back to the Miami game in 2022. Because to be fair, like, his breakout year was 2022. You go back, you look at that schedule. It's not that scary. It's a pretty easy schedule, all things considered. Like, Miami may have been the best team that they faced that season. Just saying. So, I don't know. I'm not on the Riley Leonard train right now. 5th round grade. I get why I get why some people like some of the things they do with him, but all in all, kind of. At number 8, I got a Connor Weigman out of Texas A&M, and this is a cat we are working with a very small sample size, but what you saw last year in those 4 games were very impressive, I think. Coming in at 6'3", 215 pounds. Currently got a 4th round projection on him. Again, a guy that needs to take that big step up. Hopefully can stay healthy. Again, had the foot injury last year that ended his season, but he's got a plus arm. Plays with a lot of zip. Still kind of working on his touch passes, but I think that's all right. He does throw with better anticipation than you would expect. A guy that currently really only has what? Like 8 starts under his name. He's essentially... I was about to say he's essentially the Marius Mims of this quarterback class, but like Mims was kind of a physical freak. I wouldn't quite say that about Weigman. I really would. But dude's got great mechanics. Truly does. Like throws from a clean pocket, can stack his shoulder, hips, and feet. And he does everything just very well. His adjusted completion percentage was kind of freaking nuts. I think it was around that like 78.4% last season. So kind of wild. Just kind of wild. And then just sneaky deadly with his legs. Truly is. I know he only had like 82 rushing yards, but his ability to extend the play, like golly, like I will say, and I went back, had to watch the Miami game. Luckily, the Hurricanes won that game. Yay! I'm a Hurricanes fan, just in case you didn't know. But like this dude saw the Red Sea just kind of part for him, and he didn't even like think twice. He was like, "Okay, I'll take some chunk yards, easy breezy, beautiful cover girl." But there are a lot of traits there. Keep in mind, we're working with a very, very young cat. I believe he will only be a true junior next season, so might not even end up coming out. So it is something that will be kind of like worth noted. And I will say there are things he does need to clean up. Like again, from the small sample size we've seen, like his anticipation can be a tick late. He does this, like there are times he will like display good anticipation, especially like on in-breaking routes, but he was typically late on like kind of like comeback routes. Anything that had to do with coming back towards the line of scrimmage or coming back towards the quarterback, he was a little bit late on, and just kind of that allows defenders to kind of rally to the ball. Accuracy on the move kind of slips, is what it is. Might be more of a pocket passer. I don't know. Maybe it'll look a little bit different this year. He's got Elko there now, who did just recently coach Riley Leonard. So I'm kind of curious what to see what this offense might end up looking like. There are times he does throw from a shaky base, doesn't always throw with his cleats in the ground. And he will occasionally kind of short arm his release. Also has a nasty habit of kind of drifting back in the pocket rather than stepping into it. A lot of that you could just be like, hey, only 8 starts. This guy doesn't have a lot of reps under his belt just yet. It's kind of funny. I put this in like all caps, slide. This dude needs to do a better job of protecting his body. Some of the hits he took in that Miami game, I was just like, what the hell are you doing? Like, win flee in the pocket or just taking it himself. Like, he needs to quit taking so many ill-advised hits. And there's going to be a couple of guys I talk about on this list that are kind of the same with that. But there is a lot to work with here. And if he kind of steps in the next, like in the right direction, could be like a big riser, whether it ends up being in the 2025 draft class or the 2026. Number 7, I got Quinn Ewers out of Texas, coming in 6'2", 195. Get to 210, buddy. Why are you shedding weight? So yeah, needs to put a little meat on the bones. But this was a cat we talked about quite a bit last season because we were thinking he might end up coming out, but he ends up staying. He is going to have to battle back Archman in there. So, like, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. So, like, any bad game from Ewers this season, there's going to be that man in the background. So, I mean, I like it. The dude's a competitor. Let's see him compete. Can he beat off the youngster? Pause. Words. What did I just say? Anywho, Ewers, ridiculous arm talent. We kind of already know this. Just has a naturally live arm. He can throw from different arm angles. He can throw really at any velocity. You can do it with no hitch, though this is a cat that does really like his hitches. If you don't know what that is, essentially it's just kind of like stepping into the throw. Could be a jump, could just be a step, but it is something that it's not really a good or a bad thing. But I do think some of his inaccuracies come from when he's hitching, and there's times where the ball kind of like drifts on him when he does kind of like hitch. But he's a dude that easily goes through his progressions. I think he's got a good grasp of Sarkisian's offense there, and he can extend the play with his legs. Like, I wouldn't say he's the most dynamic runner, but he can extend the play with his feet and keep his eyes downfield, or he can plant his foot and go. However, I will say shoulder injuries kind of been a theme for him. They've been on different shoulders. If you go back to 2022, where it was the clavicle in the Alabama game, and I think that was on the non-throwing shoulder. Yeah, it was on the non-throwing shoulder. And then this past season, he did miss a game with an injury to the throwing shoulder. So again, just something to take note. Could be a big nothing burger, but the decision making, I think, needs to get a little bit better from him. Like, despite hardly being under pressure in 2023, he had a really nasty habit of forcing throws. And like, I don't even want to say it was just like, oh, he really believed in his receivers. I think it's like, what are you doing there, throwing in a double coverage and stuff? Do want to see the accuracy get better, especially when under pressure. Like, it just slips. And I need to see him. I need to see him be much better in that regard if we're going to talk about him as a high level prospect. The downfield ball placement could be atrocious at times. Last season, 36.2% adjusted completion percentage on passes 20 plus yards or more. Dude, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. Like, far too often, I feel like he kind of locks onto targets, or he kind of like chooses where he's going to go with the ball before the snap, and he's, despite what's going on around him or what he's seeing, he's not really going to deviate from that. I feel like there's just a lot of telegraphing in his game, which kind of led to some of his unsuccessfulness downfield. But Ewers is definitely going to be a cat to watch this year, man. And will he finish the year as the starter is the big question. At number 6, I have Jaxson Dart out of Mississippi, coming in at 6'2", 220 pounds. And like a bad habit, I just can't kick Jaxson Dart. I believe in this cat. I got a 3rd round grade on him. I like the size. I like the arm. I think it's a plus arm. I don't think it's an elite arm, but I think it's a plus arm. I think he's got more than enough arm talent to throw with mustard, to throw at all levels of the field and do so successfully. And I mean, you look at that downfield adjusted completion percentage, 44.8%. That's on par with where you want to see it in the NFL. Well, I like Dart in that regard. Quick release, like the ball placement, just kind of whips the ball out real fast. And the ball placement was really good this past season. 74.6% adjusted completion percentage. Not really in that high percentile range, but it's in that range where it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's good. We like that. Love to see you improve upon that. We'll say that his feel for pressure, I thought, was relatively solid. Like, there are a few times where he will put the ball in harm's way while under pressure, but those times are kind of few and far between. While I think a majority of those times happen late in games when they're behind. Like, I know people are going to point to like the Alabama game where he just had kind of a throw. It was like, what the hell are you doing? I think it was into like double coverage, or it was like no one around him. Can't remember off the top, but again, this is something that's kind of few and far between. If you look at the big time throws, 20 big time throws, 9 turnover worthy plays, that's actually solid. It's among the least in this class. Well, it's up there with the least in this class. And I mean, I would like to see him get better on like money downs. Like I want to see that spark, because like, dude, third down, not one of the worst completion rates, 54%. Not great. Not good. I want to see you do a better job. I want to see it. I want to see him be that gamer, because I know he is. He's got that competitive spirit, those competitive juices in him. He has that. He does. Like we've seen this cat stick in games because he wanted to be there for his team. So I want to see him bring that when the game's on the line and on third down, or else I don't know, man. Maybe you're not more than like a Bailey Zappi or something. So maybe you're more of this like early fourth or early day 3 guy. But I do believe in some of the talent when it comes to Dart. I will say, does throw with a little bit of an ego. He's got a lot of arrogance in his arm, and I don't hate it. But sometimes he tries to thread the needle a little too often in the tightest coverage. Lower body mechanics are kind of is what it is. I think he's just kind of like throws with this wide base, kind of kills his zip. Also a guy that likes to hitch, while not necessarily a bad thing. Defenders do kind of pick up on that. Like if you're hitching, typically it indicates where you're going with the ball. You're not gonna hitch you're not gonna hitch where you're not going. Like you're not hitching in a direction you're not going with the football, you know? So it just kind of clues guys in. And especially defenders, they're going to be able to get their hands up, bat that ball down. I think, how many batted balls down did he have last season? 6 batted passes last season. So yeah, watch out. Also, this dude needs to protect his body. Like he keeps taking nasty hits. It didn't cost him games this past season, but it did in 2022, man. This dude needs to slide. Like, I get he's got that competitor in him, but he's got that dog in him, but live to play another day. Quite literally. I'll get y'all back to the video, but I gotta tell you how much I love Underdog Fantasy. It's a big reason why I choose to partner with them. It's one of the best places to play fantasy sports, and y'all gotta check out their pick'ems. It's real easy. It's super fun to play. You just pick 2 to 5 stat lines from your favorite players and choose whether they're going to go higher or lower on those stat lines. You can get up to 20 times your money for going 5 for 5. It's a lot of fun, and you can sign up using promo code Broshmo. They'll give you a free pick among your 5 and a first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Remember, sign up using promo code Broshmo. And as always, please bet responsibly, bet within your means. At number 5, I have Drew Allar out of Penn State, coming in at 6'5", 243 pounds. Kind of a big unit. He's got a big arm. He's actually a pretty good athlete at that size as well. And I know some people might want to lump him into like Anthony Richardson and Josh Allen, those type of aliens for the position, and he's not quite on that tier. He's just not, but I get where people are going with it. Because I will say, like, despite his size, I don't feel like he's that big on the field. I'm not saying he looks small, but like guys like Will Howard, Tyler Van Dyke, KJ Jefferson, like those guys, you felt their, like you noticed their size. Allar, not so much. So I don't know, it was a little weird, but he's a former 5-star recruit, does have a big arm, is a good athlete. I wouldn't say he's like definitely not like the athlete that Anthony Richardson is. I'd say he's definitely a lot closer to what like Josh Allen is in terms of athlete, but he just got the big arm, man, and he doesn't mind testing the defense deep. It's just last year he was kind of let down by some of the parts around him. Like there were a lot of drops. The pressure wasn't exactly keen. Like what was it? He was pressured 20% of the time within the first 2.5 seconds of snaps. Not a great number. Again, drops were his team had the 5th worst drop rate in the FBS. So he was let down by some of the parts around him. Doesn't mean he's a Doesn't mean necessarily that I liked everything about him, because again, like just from kind of like off, like just watching him in terms of just watching games. Again, wasn't evaluating him last year when I was watching games. I wasn't blown away by his play, but you go back and you do see where he was let down in some regards, because he is someone who is, again, plus athlete, great size, and sees the whole field. Like, actually will go through progressions, and haven't really necessarily seen him, I would say, diagnose the whole field, but someone who can go through progression, survey like all the layers of the field. Haven't really seen the actual like diagnosis, because I mean there are some errant passes in there. There are some arm punts actually in there as well that just ended up not being interceptions, because he did only have 2 interceptions last season, but like he will push the ball downfield in spite of coverage, and I like to see him maybe take a few checkdowns or more. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there was, again, he was being let down by some of his receivers, but he had some quality targets underneath. Like, and I mean, shoot, he's gonna have his tight end back from last year, not Theo Johnson, the other cat. Who was it? Tyler Warren, who I think ended up being pretty reliable for him. Yeah, the dude ended up having like 422 yards, 7 receiving touchdowns. So he will have that back for him. So that's kind of big. He is going to have Julian Fleming from Ohio State. So that is big. But still, there are a lot of things I want to see him improve upon if we're going to consider him a first-round prospect. Like, the anticipation can be a tad late. And you're going to see him, like, just miss throws. Not necessarily, like, miss the receiver, but maybe throw behind the receiver. Like, you could tell, like, he's having to throw with zip because of, oh man, I anticipated this a little bit late. Not saying that you don't see some anticipation throws on his film, just saying there are many more examples of him being late on certain throws. Doesn't necessarily throw with a consistent base. There are a lack of like big plays, but I do feel like the big plays will go up. Like, only 12 big time throws last season. Again, it wasn't for a lack of effort. This is a guy that wanted to win downfield, wanted to really throw and show off that big arm. So I don't know. I'm expecting the big plays to be bigger, and it's not going to be shocking if this cat ends up in the first round. He will be 21 by the time of his rookie year. This is a true junior. Could end up coming back. Could end up being quarterback 1 in this class. It's kind of a wild spectrum when it comes to Allar. But at number 4, I have a Cameron Ward out of, almost said Washington State, but it's actually the U, baby. The U. He's a Hurricane now. And hopefully that ends up being a good thing, because as a Hurricanes fan, I'm learned not to have expectations. But coming in at 6'2", 223, 223 pounds. And he kind of edges out Allar just because of the big time plays. The accuracy was a little bit better, 78.7% adjusted completion percentage. So you like to see that. This is a guy that is, I mean, went from being a 0-star recruit, going to Incarnate Word, and then going to Washington State. Now here at Miami. Kind of wild, but he's got a big arm, throws with a lot of confidence. He's capable of making most throws, almost all throws at all levels of the field. He throws with good zip. He's capable of threading the needle if you need him to. And there are some throws that he got away with because of, well, hey, I throw with that zip, and I can throw with a little bit of precision too. And he throws with really good anticipation as well. Like, one of the things I just love seeing is quarterbacks letting it loose before their receiver even makes their break. That means, hey, I know the landmark. I know where this guy needs to be when the throw gets there. So I'm just going to throw it to there and hope my guy gets there. So I like that. I like that. That was very apparent on like some of his reads in the middle, some of those outbreaking routes. I like that. Also very poised in the pocket, but has legit legs, can make moves with his feet if he needs to, but he wants to be a passer. Matter of fact, when he scrambles to be a passer, and I like that. I like that quite a bit about him. I did mention the arm confidence. It does borderline into arrogance and ego. Like the 21, I think, turnover-worthy plays last season. Quite a bit. Hell of a lot. Like there were times where he was trying to split defenders and it was like, oh man, you're going to go to Miami, man. You might double that turnover-worthy play rate just because that's what happens when you go to Miami. Like shoot, Tyler Van Dyke couldn't really build upon his breakout year. But not to say Cameron Ward is kind of in the same ballpark. Matter of fact, I'll probably talk about Tyler Van Dyke after at the end of this video. But there is quite a bit to like when it comes to Cameron Ward. I'm very excited to have him there as my QB, as my quarterback. I'm very excited about that. When it comes to his base, his like throwing base, I think he is a little toesy in the pocket. And kind of causes him to throw with maybe a little less power because he's not he's not able to dig in those cleats. Again, kind of nitpicking here. There are some easy misses. Like his accuracy was kind of padded by some screens. A lot of screens in that Washington run and shoot type of offense. But he does show the anticipation. But just saying, there were some missed targets there, but the adjusted completion percentage was pretty solid. His accuracy over the middle of the field was really good. Third down, not half bad, 60.4%. You know, it's not like in that like higher percentile where like we talk about like maybe these first rounders should be or where you hope they are, but it's not bad at all. So big fan of Cameron Ward. At number 3, I got Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado with a top 50 grade. Don't see him as a first rounder just yet. And I'll talk about why. Probably talk about why right now. But coming in at 6'2", 250 pounds. And I feel like I want to talk about the good first. Let's talk about the good. So, very good processor. Like, just one of the most impressive things about Shedeur is his understanding of the offense and his ability to kind of process quickly, whether it's pre and post snap. And he's shown really good football IQ and just how quickly he runs through his reads and how he can manipulate defenses just with his head, with his eyes, his head, shoulder fakes, and whatnot. A lot of good anticipation and touch throws there on the film. Top of that, very good decision maker. Like he will hardly put the ball in harm's way. He ranked 4th with a turnover-worthy play rate of 1.6, like 4th best. So you like that. You like the pre and post snap recognition. And also when he does scramble, he scrambles to pass. I do like that quite a bit. However, let's talk about the why I don't see him as a first rounder. I think his arm strength is just okay. Doesn't have an elite arm. I think it's good enough for the NFL. But I mean, there's times where like he lacks zip, the ball hangs in air for too long, it's a little wobbly. There's some ducks on his tape. The pocket poise, admittedly, Sanders didn't have a lot of help because Colorado's offensive line kind of sucked. I don't see it getting much better this year for him, unfortunately. But he does share some of the blame there. If you go and look, like 25.7% of the pressure was self-induced. That's hella high. It's a big number. He needs to cut down on that sucker. He needs to, rather than drift back in the pocket, step up in the pocket. And I know he can do it because we've seen him do it. Now, let's talk crap about the offense there. And I'm kind of hoping the offense will be a little bit better like last year. And this was more so after who was their OC? Sean Lewis, right? I want to say it was Sean Lewis. It was Sean Lewis. Okay, I thought so. After he was pulled from his play calling duties, the offense got unbearable to watch. I hated going through some of Shedeur's film just because of how watered down this offense was. Like, Colorado's offense was more like what you expect to see at your annual Turkey Bowl. Like, it was literally a watered down version of Mike Leach's air raid offense at times. And honestly, Shedeur kind of did the best that he could with that. So I'm kind of curious to see, because not a lot of that will translate to the NFL. But I mean, I'm kind of hoping the offense will be a little bit better this year. Some people aren't going to like the diva persona that he puts out there. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't care. You don't really see it a lot on the field. You don't really see that. And it's not like he gets in trouble off the field. I don't think that's really been the case. But you got to admit, holy crap, Colorado, they don't feel like a Power 5 school. They feel like Friday Night Lights, the show, sometimes. But I don't know, man. I think during this draft cycle, you know how people try to attack Caleb Williams and his character and his persona? I think we're going to see that sevenfold with Shedeur Sanders. And I feel like it's actually going to be a little bit more warranted or justified with Sanders compared to, like, I thought it was unwarranted with Williams. Like, people just simply hated him for him. I thought that was stupid. While Shedeur, I think some of that could be a little more justified. But there is a lot to like here, man. It really is. So I got a top 50 grade on him. I don't know if he could end up being like a back end range of the first round. I don't know, man. We'll see. I kind of want to see like a Bo Nix type of year from him, though. I would say maybe Bo Nix had the bigger arm. I don't know. We'll see. At number 2, I have Carson Beck out of Georgia, coming in at 6'4", 220 pounds. And funny enough, some of the things I said about Shedeur Sanders, you could say very similar things about Carson Beck, who has been on Georgia for the last 4 years, didn't really get a chance to start until last season. So he looked good. He's got good size. He doesn't have an elite arm. So similar to Shedeur in that regard, to where it's like, okay, it's an NFL arm though. It's fine. It's not big. It's not this big arm that can make these special throws, but it's one that can get by in the NFL, can make plays at all 3 levels of the field. You're going to feel okay with it. He's also like, he's very decisive, and he's a very savvy thrower. Like, his average time to throw 2.39. Really low. Like, this guy gets the ball out and he gets it out quick, man. He shows really good anticipation. He shows that ability to kind of manipulate the defense with his eyes. And there aren't many there. You could probably count them on one hand. Guys in college, quarterbacks in college, that can simply create holes in coverage with their eyes, their shoulders, just with what they do, be able to look defenders off. And he did that. Like, go to the Alabama game. The Alabama game feels like the perfect, hit the mic there. But like the perfect encapsulation of what Carson Beck is as a prospect, because it showed some of the bad, but a lot of the good. Really did. Like, you saw the pocket poise with him. Like, oh, this is a guy that likes to throw in rhythm, but he's not just that. Like, when you force him off his spot, he can make throws on the move. He can remain calm when on the move and throw off platform. And while the pass isn't necessarily perfect, he puts it where his receiver can make a play on it when on the move. Like, there's a lot to like. There's some meat on the bone. I don't know if I see him as a top 10 player, though. Top 10, like, draftable player in this class. I don't see that. Like, for one, the arm isn't, for me, anything to write home about. It's fine. I don't know if it's, like, top 10 worthy. This was a cat that was hardly under pressure. Only 87 snaps last year under pressure. Am I to fault a guy because the team around him is excellent? No. But for that time he was under pressure, it wasn't great. 5 turnover worthy plays when under pressure. There were times where he would show poor ball placement and throw it into double coverage. Again, the Alabama game kind of encompasses all that. You saw where like he throws one in the middle of the field behind opposite end of his receiver into double coverage. When it comes to him as an athlete, like he can extend the play, but he's not a great athlete. So it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like how people, okay, I'm going to say this, but a lot of people really hated Bo Nix, right? But I think most people were kind of like, okay, I could see him maybe back into the first, early second. People that felt like Bo Nix was in that area, which I guess technically is kind of I kind of had him close to my top 20 though. That's kind of how I feel about Carson Beck. Like the traits aren't high end. And to be fair, like the adjusted completion percentage, hella good, 80.6%. That's in the upper percentile. I think that's the best in this class, by the way. Big plays, though, they're not really there. The turnover worthy play rate, especially under pressure, when you burn under pressure a lot, I want to see that get better. There are aspects where he can get better at and he can kind of solidify. Yeah, definitely a first rounder. I don't know if I'll ever get into that anything more than a top 20. I don't know if I could really. I don't see him with top 10 potential in my opinion, but he's definitely one of the more, I think, higher ceiling, higher floor. There we go, higher floor quarterbacks in this class. Let's wrap up this sucker with number 1, Jalen Milroe for me. I will talk about a couple of the guys that just missed out on the list, but Jalen Milroe coming in at 6'2", 220, and I have him up here simply because the upside is immense. And if he cleans up a lot of what I think is wrong with him, I think this dude probably is the top quarterback in this class. Like, let's talk about, first off, the arm strength. It's ridiculous. He's got a big arm, throws with really good zip. Like, he will throw a laser into the smallest windows, and he can drive the ball 60 yards down the field, no problems. He hit 26 big-time throws on passes of 20 yards or more. He's a guy that can make those throws down the field. He's a legit weapon with his legs. 800 yards rushing last season. He also forced 35 forced missed tackles. Kind of insane. Also, when I first started actually diving into his tape as a eval, his mechanics were a lot better than what I expected. Like, he's got a quick release, throws from a good base, doesn't get toesy, and he stacks the throwing shoulder with the loading foot, whips that arm, but makes sure it doesn't get ahead of the hips. Like, it was a good throwing motion. And unlike some of the other guys in this class, I don't think anyone can improvise as much as he can. He's that guy. He can do it. Like, go check out Michigan. He had some big plays in there. There were some negative plays, and we'll talk about that. So, let's talk about it now. All right, progressions, diagnosing, it's not there yet. If this dude was forced out of the pocket, having to make a play outside of the pocket, a lot of times he's probably going to have to do it with his feet, though he did show he will throw it and gun it downfield if he can. He's not just a runner when forced to scramble or flee the pocket, but you do want to see him be able to, when he is in a clean pocket, be able to diagnose and go through his progressions and be faster. Like, he's got a very nasty habit of holding on to the football. 3.44 seconds average time to throw is a terrible number. I need to see that get better. I really do. And I mean, to be fair, like, other times, like, Nick Saban just didn't trust this guy as a passer. Like, Nick Saban really left it up to where it was like, hey, you may have like 2 reads and I just want you to run the football. And like, talking like 2 reads, maybe like essentially 1 read where it's like, hey, you may have like a floods concept or like a high-low option out here. you don't like one of those, so it's like essentially that's like a 2 read, right? Because it's like, okay, the high's not open, I'll go to the low. 1, 2. So some people kind of count that as like 1 read or whatnot. But hey, if that's not open, hey, get some yards with your feet. That's kind of what Nick Saban like boiled the offense down to. And it's really going to be interesting now with the new head coach in there from Washington. I'm blanking on his name. I could say Ryan Grubb all day, his OC, but blanking on his name right now. Oh, there we go. Kalen DeBoer. There we go. Why did I blank on that so hard? But who coached Michael Penix last season, last 2 years? I'm very fascinated to see how Jalen Milroe in this offense, because he's not going to be able to do everything that Penix did last year. I don't think, at least. But if you could see like some shades of that, then holy moly, watch out, Jalen Milroe. Like, again, the ceiling on this guy is kind of legit. Kind of legit. Now, accuracy does need to get better, but not nearly as bad as you may think. Does struggle with his accuracy along the sidelines and on the intermediate levels of the field. Just sometimes I think there are cases where his hips end up chasing his throwing arm, and you'll see when he like goes to make that throw, he'll typically pop up. That's just typically because your arms lead in your hips. You throw through and you kind of pop up. And this really results in him missing high a lot. So I'm kind of curious to see if we'll see some of the mechanics get better this year with Milroe. But I just don't think anyone in this class necessarily might have as high as a ceiling as Milroe. And it's not exactly a quarterback class where I think I see a lot of first rounders like we did in this past one. Let's talk about some of the guys who just missed out on the list, starting with probably Dylan Gabriel. He was quarterback 11 for me. Hey, I love my short Keens. But I ended up having Fifita edge him out because of youth. But Gabriel might have the bigger arm, and I mean, I like a lot of what he does, man. I don't know. It's like I don't know if I see him sneaking into like the top 100, but I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. Graham Mertz, I know, hey, Mertz hype season, it's here. I think he's got the potential to be a high-end backup in the NFL. Like, you go back and watch some of his games at Florida, he was hella good. Like, he really was. So watch out for that. Jalen Daniels out of Kansas. He was just hurt last year, man. The back injury, that's something that's actually going to be a bit of a concern, but also doesn't really play in a very NFL-style offense. But he's got a big arm. You are going to kind of worry about how some of his game translates to the NFL. I'm not willing yet to be like, oh, he probably needs to change positions yet, but it will be something to kind of like note. There were guys like Tyler Van Dyke and Will Howard that I got to their tape. Van Dyke I've been watching for like 2 years, but Will Howard I actually got to his tape this summer for the first time, and I just didn't come away blown away by. Like, honestly, like, I get Will Howard, he's big, he can move, and he's got a big arm. Super inaccurate. Like, this guy had a lot of arm punts on tape, so I don't know if I'm as crazy as some people are about Will Howard. And then Tyler Van Dyke, honestly, it's just the more accurate quarterback. I don't know if it's going to get better for him there at Wisconsin. We'll see under Luke Fickell. I'm going to be curious. I didn't get to like a Garrett Green yet, but another guy that's a short Keen at 5'11", 202. And then Garrett Nussmeier, I've been saying this cat's one of the best backups in college football. So I didn't really have much to pull from a full eval from him just yet, but definitely a guy to watch out for. But you let me know who are some of your favorites in this class or potential guys you think might end up breaking out this year. But as always, till next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.